Hi, everyone. Welcome to Grants and Contracts. I'm your co-host today, Lainey.
And this is Abraham, your co host for the Grants and Contract podcast. Thanks for joining us this week here. And we've got a lot of exciting things to talk about with you. And so if you're joining us live, we're going to be talking about what is capture management, and we're going to talk about the life of a capture manager. And so we have our guest here with us today, and she's going to be sharing about her life as a capture manager. So there's going to be a lot of good tips, tricks, and strategies that she's going to share with everybody. So in a second, we're going to introduce you to her, but let's just start off by talking about what's going on in the world of government contracting, Lainey. What's going on?
So I feel like every minute of the day, if you're like me and have your notifications turned on for news, there's something new that is happening every single moment of every single day. So it's a new fine. That's been the big word that's been on my phone is fine. Just something new happening all the time. Abe, what are you seeing? With your clients, are you seeing a lot more? Are we still seeing those contracts being cut? What are you seeing on your side?
Yeah, it's just I think tariffs. The biggest things happening this week are the world of if you're selling goods or goods to the government market. There's a lot of tariffs. The I just saw that this morning that China has increased. We've imposed 104% tariffs on goods imported from China, and then China just put on a 84% tariff on goods being sold from the U.S. to China. So we are a full tariff war right now. How that will trickle down and impact you as a government contractor as it relates to your products being sold to federal agencies or state local agencies. We'll find out more of that in the coming days and weeks. And not sure if all this here is just negotiation tactics, but we'll come back and talk more about that there. But if you're just joining us today, we're going to be talking about what is capture management and the life of a capture manager. So we have a guest who she's going to be sharing a little bit about her journey as a capture manager in a second. One last thing before we go into our key topic here. If you're joining us, if you could put in where you're joining us from, and then maybe your company name and what industry you're in, that would be awesome. But
Yeah,
one thing, Lainey, do you know that I am going to be playing in my first pickleball tournament this weekend?
you might have mentioned it a time or two over the last couple of weeks, but I'm really excited for you to come back next week. Tell us about how it went. I'm expecting a win. I really am. As much as we talk about pickleball, I think that there should be a first place. I want to see your trophy next week.
well, I'm playing for the experience. I don't know where my standing will be, whether I'm going to medal or not, but it's for fun. So it's more for me. It's more health and wellness. Now, if you've played pickleball before, put in the chat. Let us know if you enjoy pickleball or if you want to learn to play pickleball. If you're in the Metro Atlanta area, I'd love to play pickleball with you. Last year I usually go to Stone Mountain on the top of Stone Mountain. That was my health and wellness journey last year. It was all about hiking and jogging and running. This year it's all about pickleball. So I used to do contracting tips from the top of Stone Mountain. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking about contracting tips from the pickleball courts or something like that there. But that will be maybe my next short episodes. I'll do that there.
Yeah, we have to get together and play and make some videos out playing. So, before we introduce our special guest today, I do want to anybody that's joining live or even if you're watching playback, if you know what a manager is, I want you to put just capture in the chat. So if you know that, I want you to put capture, and then for all the ones that don't put anything, we'll know kind of what our audience is and as we dive into this. So as those chats keep coming in, I want to introduce our special guest today. Her name is Whitney. We are so excited to have her. When me and Abe were talking about this, we said she is the perfect person to bring onto this podcast and talk about, what is capture management? education does it take to be in capture management? You know, what are the steps to get there, and what does it look like, you know, a day in the life of the capture manager? So I want to introduce Whitney, and we're gonna open up the stage. Let Whitney, you know, just tell us a little bit about you. We know your name's Whitney. You know, where are you located? Where are you joining us from today? And just a little, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but maybe something fun about yourself, or introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Abe and Lainey, thank you so much for extending the invitation to me. I'm super excited to be here. But as Lainey said, my name is Whitney. I work as a capture manager. I've been in the GovCon space now for about 3 years. I'm very passionate about small business growth and success within the federal market. And so what I do, I'm very passionate about. A little bit about me as well is you can see the Wisconsin license plate behind me. So I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have a lot of love and admiration for that state and city in the Midwest. But I currently reside in Georgia. I'm in Lawrenceville. I've been in Georgia now for about 8 years. And so it's home. It's home for me. And I love it.
So
Well, I know before we dive into capture management, which is one of your great passions, I want to talk about your other great passion.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I know not to mess with you, so tell me about your other passion that besides capture management.
Yeah, so when I'm not doing market research and scrubbing through RFPs, I love to train jujitsu. I've been training jujitsu now for on and off since 2020. I'm still a baby white belt, but I hope to get my blue belt here soon. But yeah, I've competed in jiu-jitsu, and it's an amazing sport. It's a tough sport, but it keeps me sharp. It keeps me on my toes. And it's just a great self-defense sport. So I love it, and I do that in my free time. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I did not know that. So
Yeah.
I have to ask this, you know, I'm not really familiar with Wisconsin, but do you define yourself as a cheesehead?
Oh, through and through. If you can see my office right now, you would probably be like, girl, you're doing too much. I got a cheese head. I got like little bobbleheads in the room, and I got a cheese coaster. So yeah, I'm definitely a cheesehead.
Well, this is now the $1 million question. Will you say go dogs while watching the Georgia game, or no?
Okay, so yes, I will.
Good. That was the correct answer.
Yes, right. I'm in Georgia now, right? I don't want to get beat up, but no. So up north, college football is not that big of a thing, right? So Green Bay professional football is like the thing. So coming to Georgia and seeing how big college football was, UGA was one of the first like football teams that I'm like, okay, I want to support because people love it here. So go dogs, go pack, go. You know, I support dogs.
I know. I've always said that I wish I lived in I think the NFL, like I come from college sports. I'm born and raised in Georgia. We go to college games. Like that's what we bleed is red and black. Yeah. And I wish we had those NFL teams because we have NFL teams. It's not the same as you going to Kansas City or the Packers where you're getting there Sunday, you know, at 7 a.m. You're gonna tailgate all day, like that's what you breathe, and I would love to be a part of that. But yeah, so let's dive in. So
but capture management is like that though, right? Capture management is like you live, breathe government contracting, and you know you bleed red, white, and blue. So it's a different sport. It's a different game. So Whitney, tell me, how did you get into the world of capture management? I mean, no one wakes up and say my career path, or one day I'm going to grow up and be a capture manager, right? No one does that. But how did you get into the government world, and how did you become a capture manager?
So I love this question because it reminds me kind of how far I've come, but I really got into this world in an unconventional way. At the time when I was looking to kind of make a transition in my life and career, I was working as a UPS delivery driver. And I did that for about a year and a half, and it was steady work. It was good work, but I wasn't really fulfilled, right? Like I really wanted to do something that stimulated me a little bit more mentally, something that I felt had a little bit more of purposeful work. What that was at the time, I didn't know kind of what that looked like, but I was kind of networking throughout the folks that I knew, and I had a really good friend of mine reach out to me and say, you know, hey, my dad is looking for a project coordinator for a contract that he has with the VA for his business. You know, is this something that you would be interested in doing? And immediately I'm like, yeah, I would love to talk to him and learn a little bit more about the position. And so had a conversation with him. He extended the offer to me. And so that was my first entry point into government contracting. At the time, I had no clue what it was, how he got his contracts, you know, but just so curious about it. And really just wanted to be the best project coordinator at the time. But in addition to that, I was just very curious about wanting to know how he found these opportunities, how he built his business around doing business with the government. And so he kind of took me under his wing. He was showing me more of the capture and business development side of doing business. And so walking me through how to find an opportunity, walking me through how to scrub through an RFP, walking me through kind of the proposal process. And so that was what sparked my interest. And I would do a lot of capture and business development support in my free time for his company, just because I wanted to know more and just be more exposed to it. And the more I was doing outreach, the more I was finding insights on our target agencies or finding opportunities, the more he was like, you're kind of good at this, you know? And so I just kind of fell into that in that way. So yeah, that's kind of my journey and my story so far.
Well, I love that. And I think it's really interesting when you kind of get thrown into the government contracting world and then you start realizing that everything's a government contract, like how much they buy and all this. So kind of when I want to tell the story, I don't think I've ever told it on the podcast, of how I learned about government contracting. Was I think I knew a little bit about it, but my husband was like, oh, have you ever watched this movie? And we don't like the same movies. I like historical movies. He likes like comedy, like kind of just silly movies. And I was like, oh, I don't want to watch your movie. Like, I don't enjoy your movies. But we watched it, and it was War Dogs. And I don't know if y'all have ever watched War Dogs, but it's about like some college kids that get a government contracting in ammunition.
$350 million contract.
Yeah. And they have to drive to, I think it's either Afghanistan or Iraq, like drive the ammunition through. It's called the Triangle of Death. It's a great movie, so you should watch it. You know, it's based on a true story. Obviously, it's a funny movie. But after that, I watched that movie, and at the end, they like say like based on a true story. And I started looking into that. I'm like, wait, I want to learn more about government contracting. And I wasn't necessarily wanting to do ammunition and drive it to the Middle East, but I was like, wait, what? And I got on SAM.gov, which they talk about that in the movie. And I was like, the first solicitation I ever looked at was for detailing a plane. And I was like, wait, I could go detail a plane. Like technically, like, I mean, anybody could go do that. And so that's kind of what opened my mind. But I love your story and kind of you were thrown into it and have just succeeded in it. And, you know, I think that's just an amazing story.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Lainey, as well. And I think that's kind of your story of how you fell into it as well as what excites me so much about this space is that it literally penetrates every industry, right? Like you could be selling paper, you could be selling ink cartridges, or you could be selling IT solutions or consulting. Literally anyone can do this. And I think that when I came to that realization, it made me want to stand 10 toes down and really learning this process and this landscape, because you can really create generational wealth by being in this space, right? And so it's just exciting. I love it. I love to hear other people's stories about how they kind of fell into it as well. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, and something
this here, the biggest hidden known secret, right? Most people don't plan to get into the government market.
Yeah.
Most people don't plan to become a capture manager. They just kind of discover it through other people, and usually that's how it's done. And so it's intriguing how, because I discovered, capture management in a very unique way. But just a quick side note, if you're just joining us here, we're, talking with Whitney Tipton. She's a capture manager. Now, if you are a business owner, you're thinking like, why should I care about being a capture manager? Well, you are a capture manager for your own company, right? So if you're a business owner, you are the de facto capture manager. If you are a professional or salesperson or business development person, you are a capture manager. So thanks for joining us today on this podcast, having a great conversation with Whitney about the life and journey of a capture manager. But my own personal discovery of the government world and capture management, I was going through a really challenging time with real estate back in 2007. And I thought, I need something else to do, something that is different from real estate, because the real estate market looks like it is it's going through this great, recession here. So I met a lieutenant colonel, and this is how, Whitney, you and I connect through this story here. So I met a lieutenant colonel. He retired from the Army, and he said, Abe, I want to start a consulting company in the government market. And so he didn't have a lot of business experience. I had a lot of business experience. So we came together, we started a consulting company in the government market. So that's kind of how I got to the government market, just through, again, I didn't wake up one day, say I'm going to be a government contracting company or a capture manager in the government space. That just kind of evolved. But this person is related to the person that he and I actually work with the gentleman that actually got you into government contracting. So it's a small world.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
the gentleman that I got into the government market world, our mutual friend got you into the government contracting world. So it's a small world of how. And I always tell people that the government world is not that big. It seems like it's a big world, but so treat people right, do right by other people. It's a small world after all. So.
And something too, I love, like one of the reasons I wanted to have Whitney on this podcast and love getting to know Whitney as well is I am really passionate. I'm passionate about this on the nonprofit side, but getting women in the government space, we're seeing a lot more. And I love, that's one thing that really drew me to GCA was there's a lot of women that are in this, the GCA family, but also, getting into contracting because of GCA. And I love that, like the representation of women and then a younger generation, there's contracting officers kind of have a stereotype that they're older white men. And so we're kind of seeing some of that go out, but then having this younger generation that knows about government contracting, like you brought up, the generational wealth. If Abe could go in and teach a college course, I think that we would see so many people come in, and he does amazing education. But if we could go into these universities and say, what if we could change your life with government contracting? And they would say, I didn't even know this was a thing, because I didn't know it was a thing when I was in college. I feel like you probably don't know unless you have a family member or a mentor or somebody that's in it, because it's just not like we said, it's not our dream to become a contracting, a government contractor. That's not most people's dreams coming out of elementary school and high school. So I love the bringing this next generation and just giving that education. And so that's kind of where we're going to go is how do you get into capture management? What does this look like? What are some steps to get into that, to get this, no matter who you are, start your journey now.
Yeah, and in a little bit, we're going to show you. In fact, I'll have my show producer. We do have an upcoming class that teaches you how to become a capture manager. So she's going to put the link in there. But Whitney, in terms of, tell me about now that you're in the government market, you got introduced into it by a friend, and then tell me about your first capture management win, because that's really what everybody wants to hear about. How did you get your first win, and what are some lessons learned from that?
Yeah, I love this question because this was really what solidified for me. Like, okay, you actually are good at this, you know. But my big kind of breakthrough win was I was supporting that lieutenant colonel that you speak of, his business. And so at the time, his company is a SDVOSB 8A company. And at the time, he was looking to break into the audio visual support service space within Department of Defense. And so I just began to kind of drill down with the agencies within the DoD, Air Force, Navy, Army, to see what opportunities they might have for audiovisual support services. And as a capture manager, I always like to get ahead of the opportunity. So first place I went was to their forecast list, and I identified a forecasted opportunity with the Air Force for audio visual support services. Once I identified that, I drilled down some more to figure out who the point of contact was on the opportunity. And then I just did targeted outreach to that contracting officer. And I'm so glad that I did, because a day or two after reaching out to him, he came back and was like, you know, we're looking for an 8A company to pick up this work. They weren't too pleased with how the incumbent was performing. And so with a few conversations with that contracting officer, that company was able to get their first direct award with the Air Force, which was not only a huge feat for me, but for them as well, because at the time they had been in business for about 20 or so years. And if I remember correctly, I think that was the first time they ever were able to do that. And so it was just a huge thing across the board. That contract was valued at just over $500,000, which was huge. Again, because a lot of the work that they were getting in the space, they were subbing on, they weren't really priming on. And so that was kind of like a big prime contract for them as well. And with that direct award, it also led to us and really gave us the encouragement to continue to expand into the AV space. So shortly after that direct award, we ended up getting like 3 or 4 additional prime contracts with the VA for audiovisual support services. So it was just that was the biggest win in my career. And again, that was one of the things for me that let me see and gave me the self-confidence to know, like, you're doing the right things, you know, like just keep going and, you know, help small businesses grow. Because again, like I said, that's something that I'm very passionate about, and I know it can change lives. And so, yeah, that's it, Abe.
Well, congratulations on, because you since that you won other contracts, but it starts with one, right? Because many of you who are in the government market, you're thinking like, man, I haven't won one yet. It just takes one to open doors for you. And once you have one, it goes into what Whitney is talking about, that your footprint expands from one contract officer to another contract officer, or that one contract officer, they have multiple contracts. And then that relationship opens up additional opportunities with that same contract officer. So that is the way to do it. You grow by expanding your network, your relationships with that there. But one thing you shared, Whitney, is that you start off by looking at a forecast. Mm-hmm. And some of you, if you caught that tip, right? Whitney shared a very important tip, that it starts by looking at forecast opportunities. And so I'm going to put a link to a list of forecasts for all the different agencies out there. So use the link in the chat to help you to find future forecasts for your company. But the federal government has a rule that every agency must create a forecast list to make it available for small business purposes. So large companies, they understand capture. They're going after these big projects, and they understand forecasts. They do it from they have the personnel. They have a capture team of maybe 200-300 people. For small businesses, you're the business owner. You are the capture manager, and then some small business, you actually have a capture manager like Whitney to help you. And so the forecast will allow you to actually find and dig into the specific contracting officers, so that you can build those relationships and engage them before the project hits out. So So we have the list that's going to be available in the chat area. So look in the description area and in the chat area so that you can actually take advantage of this here. So what other tips, did you learn from your first contract award that you can share with people, Whitney?
Yeah. Oh,
sorry. We had a question in the chat, and it's, what is a forecast? So just in case, we have some newbies. I know we had a lot of government contracting lingo, but what is a forecast? And I don't know if Whitney wants to take that answer or Abe wants to take it.
Yeah, Whitney, go ahead. Tell us what is a forecast.
So the best description I can give of it, maybe Abe, you can polish it up for me. But basically what a forecast is all the opportunities that the government anticipates that they're going to need or plans to release in the future. Typically, most forecasts I've seen are typically like a year out. But I've seen forecasts that are 3, 4, 5, 6 years out sometimes. It's just a list full of opportunities that they're looking for, either services or products that they're looking to procure in the future. And it's a great way to stay ahead of the opportunity, because most of what I do as a capture manager is done well before a proposal is even written. And you want to stay ahead of the curve. You want to stay ahead of the competition, and you want to make sure you find the best way to penetrate the target agencies that you want to get in. And I often find that forecasting helps you do that, because you can find the needs that they have and figure out how to meet them and start engaging with those federal buyers as soon as possible before the RFI is released or before the RFP is released. So that's my definition of it. Yeah. I hope it made sense.
Well, I love that definition. That's right on point there. I'll add some more color to what you shared. When you're as a capture manager, you have to understand the full life cycle of the government contracting process. And so they work on fiscal year, and then based upon that, usually the first of the government fiscal year starts on October 1st. And between October 1st and January 1st, that is usually the time that they're putting out forecasts or they update their forecast. It's a recurring forecast list. So they update their forecast during the first quarter of start October 1st. And so by the time January rolls around, they've already done some purchasing, or they put out some, they have the list out already. And so if you are aware that every agency have that list, or if you're talking to the small business specialist, or if you're talking to a procurement officer, they can make that list available to you, or you can find it online. Sometimes it's on their website. But the life cycle works in this way. First, there is a problem or a need. And then there's the second step is the appropriation of funding. So they have to ask Congress for more money, or if it's a state, they have to go to the state legislators to ask for money. So that's the budget step. So need, budget. And then the third step is what's called a market survey. A market survey is where the government will say, okay, you know what, we need to, or actually the third step is actually the forecast. So need, budget, forecast, and this is really what Whitney's talking about. The third step is the forecast of when they're going to spend that money. And then once they decide when they're going to spend that money, and they put out the list of when what they're buying, then they go into the RFI, or the market study, the market research. And then after that, it goes into the RFP or RFQ. So the forecast stage is really 2 steps before it comes out as an opportunity for most of you who are waiting for to submit a proposal. If you wait until it comes out as an RFQ or RFP, it's a little too late, because at that point, people who are capture managers like Whitney, they've been tracking it at the need stage. They've been tracking at the budget stage. They've been tracking at the forecast stage. All these early stages is where a capture manager is supposed to be working at, not necessarily just looking at when it hits the street. At that point, everybody sees it. There is no competitive advantage. You are unprepared, just like everybody who's unprepared. So what Whitney is sharing about the forecast, that's a very important tip and strategy for all of you who are plan to be capture managers, are capture managers, or business owners out there. So let's go into, you share that forecast is a very important strategy. As a capture manager, what are some other things that you've learned along this journey here, Whitney, in terms of sharing with our audience here?
I've learned a lot. So it's really like, how much time do y'all have, right? But I won't bore you with everything that I've learned.
Nothing's boring. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
it's definitely exciting.
Exciting stuff here. So
I definitely nerd out over this stuff, but I'll say the biggest thing that I've learned is really through the certified capture management program that I recently graduated out of in December. That was such a huge thing for me, because it really helped close the gaps in a lot of areas that I had as a capture professional. Prior to taking that course, all of what I knew about capture management and business development as it relates to the federal marketplace, I was self-taught on. A lot of YouTube University, LinkedIn, like just grabbing where I could and just throwing to see what stuck on the wall. But through the CCM program, the biggest thing that I learned was understanding the process to this procurement life cycle, right? Agency needs are going to change. The landscape can change, but really the process of how you find work and submit proposal and build company infrastructure, like all those things kind of stay the same. And so just really trying to get familiar with that process. So I would say the biggest thing that I've learned is knowing that I'm okay, because a lot of times the more I learn, the more I'm like, oh my God, I still have so much more to learn. But the CCM taught me to just trust the process, know that although things will be changing and shifting, essentially the foundation to how procurement is done is pretty consistent. So just get really good with how you identify opportunities, align opportunities to your company's core capabilities, how you qualify, and building out the right compliance matrices and things like that. Just kind of honing in on that has been the biggest thing I've learned, and the biggest help, I think, to me in my career thus far.
So you mentioned the Certified Capture Manager program, the CCM program. For those of you who's not aware of that, there's a lot of different training programs out there. For example, if you want to become a contracting officer and work for the federal government, which many of them are getting laid off right now, or fired or released. So that, I don't know if that's the best path. Maybe another 6 months, they're going to realize, oh, you know what? We need more contracting officers, and we need more capture specialists in the government market, or contract specialists more so. So if you are working in the government side, you have to go to train, right? You have to go and take classes, and they call that DAU, Defense Acquisition University. And they go learn the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, and how to procure, how to buy from businesses. And they start off, as a contract specialist, and then they eventually become a, contracting officer, and then they move their way up the ranks, and they get their, they grow professionally in that regard. They become chief procurement officer for agency, right? So that's kind of like the career path if you're on the government side. But no one just wakes up one day, I'm going to be a contracting officer. They usually kind of step into that by accident as well. Because it's not like being a police officer, or being a doctor, or being a real estate investor or professional out there that most people are aware of. The contracting world is not necessarily known by the public community itself. So if a contractor officer have to go to school to learn to be a procurement officer, you as a business owner, you have to learn to become a capture manager as well. And so most people think that a capture manager is the same thing as a proposal writer. A proposal writer and capture manager are not the same thing. They're two different people. Sometimes a capture manager is also a proposal writer, and sometimes a proposal writer also knows capture management, but usually they're two very different people. And so capture manager is like a business development or salesperson. And so their job is to build relationship. Their job is to go out there. And so to learn all these skill sets requires some type of formal training. Learning on the job can only get you so far. Why? Because you're only as good as the person, the relationship that you can build and the people that's teaching you. And so what over the years, what GCA did was we created a certified capture manager program. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you how detailed and how powerful that program is that Whitney referred to. So with that, Lainey, you had some questions you have for Whitney?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say this. So I think I love hearing, different stories of, especially with CCM. So my first real step into the government market was the Certified Capture Management course. So I want to explain that to our audience, is that when we kind of dive in, it's a lot of details. Like Whitney said, you don't know what you don't know. Well, I think it's a great course and I recommend everyone do it, but I think it's great that so many different levels can take this course. So if you're listening, you're like, I don't even, I'm just now learning about government contracting, CCM is for you. That's where I was. I was a baby in the government contracting. I wanted to create a business, and that's why I wanted to get in capture management. And then we have people, experience like Whitney that was coming in, that she had been doing capture management. She just wanted to expand her capture management. And the curriculum is great for both people. So it's not like you have to be and have a set of rules, have all of this. You just have to be willing to learn. I think at the end of the day, no matter where you are on the scale of, like, I was a very newbie, they're throwing out these words and I'm like, I've never even heard of this. So I was, getting to know everything pretty fast. But then even people that would consider themselves seasoned, there's still a lot to learn, because like you said, Whitney, you kind of don't know what you don't know until you dive into it and you start hearing, amazing teachers like Abe and Guy they've had all this experience. They're teaching you about things. You're like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I want to do that. I want to do that, because the teaching style with CCM, and I know Abe said he's going to explain it later, but I love it because it's real world scenarios. So yes, we're learning definitions, we're learning that, but as we know from this podcast, Abe has a story for everything. And so I loved the days that he got to teach the class, because he told stories and I was like, oh, that I understand that. Maybe it was a definition, or if it was something on the FAR or whatever it was, because he had a story that related to it. And Guy does, I think, a great job with that as well, of relating it back. So yes, it's a lot of information, but I think it's laid out in such a great way that you're able to easily take that in and learn what you need to.
For sure. And I just want to add too that I feel as though the CCM is the most comprehensive capture management training that's out in the market now. And to your point, Lainey, as well, between Abe and Guy and even yourself now, right? Like, the things that you guys share are a lived experience. It's not something that you read in a book or that, like, you read in an article. It's things that you have experienced. It's things that you guys have done. It's things that you've helped other people through. And what better way to learn than someone who has had that lived experience? And I know I'm all the better for it. I think the CCM as well. So initially when I went in, I had no plans on wanting to start a business or get registered in SAM and all those things. I don't want to give any spoilers, so I won't go too deep. But being in the class, I was able to do it in real time. All those things that I had kind of thought in my mind at one point I wanted to do, I was doing it in real time. And I was doing it with a group of people that could give me feedback in real time and could support me in real time. So I have nothing but the best things to say about the CCM. I think if anybody is on the fence about it, don't be. It's well worth the investment. And I'm so glad I took that investment and invested in myself, because, again, I feel all the better because of being in that program. But I'll shut up about it.
Well, Let's do a little spoiler since you brought up a spoiler.
Yeah.
So, you came into the CCM, you wanted to expand, but you were working for someone else. You came out of the CCM. Like, let's talk about where you are now.
Yeah.
I don't want to give any spoilers, but Whitney does have her own business now. So
Yeah.
kind of tell us a little bit about that. It inspired you, but then like you're on a new path now. Tell us what that looks like being, your own capture manager.
Sure. So it's a learning process, but it's been so rewarding, and I'm so glad that I kind of take that jump and just really like bet on myself. And so yeah, initially when I first started the CCM, I was supporting a small business in the Atlanta area. Ended up kind of stepping away from that company and wanted to just kind of do more for myself and support other small businesses and other minority-owned businesses in the area as well. And so I started my own consulting firm called Elitros, where I provide capture and business development support to small businesses, primarily that have already kind of been in the government contracting space. They have some past performance, some contract wins, but they don't really have a capture management process or system. Oftentimes with the small businesses that I've supported, they don't always have the back office support to do the capture or do the proposal or do the pricing. So oftentimes the owner is the one that's picking up that task. And so I'm that person that comes in and takes that piece off of their desk and kind of just help smooth out that process and build up the pipeline, get in front of the right people, get out to industry days, networking events, and things like that, so I can take that from their plate. But yeah, that's kind of where I am now. I'm supporting several businesses, several women-owned businesses, and it's been great. And I'm excited to just continue to do more and learn more and just help small businesses grow.
Yeah, well, I love that because once again, I feel like we share a lot of the same things. That was how CCM, I graduated CCM, started my own company. And same thing, women-owned small business, all the fun things. But I love the story of, going out on your own, creating your own thing. And I think that that's what a lot of people fall in love with in the government contracting space. And that's something I fell in love with is I feel like I'm an entrepreneurial heart. That's where, or as Abe likes to call it, a serial entrepreneur, because he shares that characteristic with me. But being able to create your own reality. So create your own reality. As we say every podcast, you're one contract away from all your goals, your dreams, your new house, your new car, whatever you want, that generational wealth. Yeah. And I think that's why I fell in love with government contracting, was because when I was opened up to this world, I was like, oh, this is it. This is not we hear all these, for lack of a better word, schemes that go around where get rich quick. It's not that, but there's steps to take place. And, I love Abe. Abe has a quote and he can expand on his quote. I don't want to take the words out of his mouth, but it's not an if you win a contract, it's a win. If you keep doing the steps, if you keep doing what's taught in the CCM, what GCA teaches, you will win that first contract, and then it snowballs just like it did with yours and so many people we've worked with GCA.
Absolutely.
Well, you mentioned that you support small businesses. So what I do is I put Whitney's contact information in the chat, and so if you are a business owner looking to bring on a capture manager, Whitney can actually help supplement that and be that support to you if you're looking for that. Or if you are someone who just wants to connect with Whitney to get real world experience of what it means to be a capture manager, you can reach out to her, go to her website and reach out to her as well. She'll be more than happy to connect with you and help you on your journey as a business owner or as a capture manager into the wonderful world of government contracting. With that said, I want to dive in a little bit and talk about the Certified Capture Manager program that's coming up. It's coming up in a little bit about a month or so. And so every few months we start a new cohort of the trainee capture managers. So I'm going to share my screen and give you guys a quick peek into what is the capture management program, and so that you can really learn about this career path, or as a business owner, this strategy of equipping yourself to become effective in the government market. So let me pull this up here a little bit. So this is our certified capture manager program here. And our show producer is going to repost the capture management link into the chat area. So if you're joining us, you can look at that in there. So this is we call it Certified Capture Manager Program. Why? Because it's a professional designation. It's the only professional designation that exists for Capture Manager that's approved by, there's a lot of different people that do some sales training or capture training in the government market, but this is the only program that we know of that is approved by the state of Georgia as a post-secondary educational program. It's equivalent to a master's degree, but it's not a degree program. It's a professional certificate program. So it's a proven model. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have graduated from this program here. Billions of dollars have been won through these capture managers that have graduated from this program. And so the next cohort starts on May 15th. And so if you're interested in learning more, go ahead to the website and read up about it. But what's included in this here, right? Well, let me talk about the benefits first. So part of the benefits of being a certified capture manager, it helps you to win more contracts. That's the ultimate benefit of why you want to be in this program here. And then it also distinguishes yourself among your peers. And in the world of government contracting, there's a few things that distinguishes yourself. It's one of it is getting your small business certification, right? One of it is building a relationship with a contract officer. But part of it is when you are certified as a capture manager, now you have a professional designation to distinguish yourself from anybody else. It expands your knowledge. And Whitney shared earlier that she knew some things through being self-taught, but then it really enhanced her knowledge. It also allows you to adhere to professional code of conduct and ethics and so forth, gain a competitive edge in your competitors. And if you are a capture manager and if you want to just go get a job, if in Whitney's situation, she's a consultant where she helps multiple companies. But if you are looking at expanding your professional career as a job, instead of being a salesperson, you can become a capture manager. And if you're not aware, but the average capture manager salary is $159,000. And so if I went to LinkedIn, and I'm just gonna go give you an example. So I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna put in here capture manager, and I'm going to look at capture manager, and I'm going to look under jobs, actually click on jobs here. And we're going to look, right? So for this capture manager position, it's 100 to 150,000. We're going to look at a few more. Let's identify. Now, look at this job here. No one's applied for this job yet. And they have to promote this here, and no one's applied for that job. And so as a capture manager, it's a very, very interesting career path because so this is a proposal. Let's look for, okay, capture director, 176,000 to 282,000, 0 applicant. And so when we're talking about teaching you the skill set of being a capture manager as a business owner, if you were to go and hire a capture manager, you're going to be paying 176 to 282,000 for an experienced person. Or you can use someone like Whitney who can come in and supplement your capture management. So until you get to a more contract awards, then you can hire a full-time capture manager, or you can learn to be your own capture manager. And so this is my point here, right? You have all these different positions as a capture manager, and I'm trying to show you the ones that actually are paying, that list the salary. Most jobs never list the salary, but for capture managers, it's so competitive that they have to list that they're paying all this here, so that you can actually see that. And so this is real world, real time. They're paying anywhere from, the average is about 159, but anywhere from 100,000 to 282,000 for Capture Manager. So this program here will allow you to learn those skill sets. It's 14 weeks, and you get the GovFastTrack software, which I'm going to give you a quick demo of that in a second. You also get the learning management system, which is some learning the specific terms and terminologies. At the end, you actually take a test to become a certified capture manager. So and another video course is included to give you the knowledge. So this is a great program. Now you're thinking, okay, what's the investment? The investment into this program here is $6,000 to invest into the program, or you can do monthly payments. And if you are a micro business, or if you are brand new and you say, hey, I really need to get into the program, but this is a little bit out of my budget, reach out to us. We have different creative ways of how we can help you get into the next cohort of the Certified Capture Manager program. So reach out to us. Our email is info@govcontractors.org, and my show producer will put that into the chat. But I'm going to share with you what you're going to learn, right? So you're going to learn kind of like a step-by-step process. So the way we teach capture management is we teach it from a simple success formula, which we call the 5 Ps: P plus P plus P plus P equals P. And so we go through a preparation phase, a promotion phase, proposal phase, and then a performance phase. And under preparation, there's different micro steps, right? Assessment, strategy, education, registration. And then we start off by assessing. So if you expand that, there's a lot of micro steps of what you need to do. So we teach you not only what to do, how to do it, but why you need to do it, but the specific steps of what you need to do. So for example, as a business owner, you need a corporate kit. So if you don't have a corporate kit, or if you don't know what that is, you click on this link and it takes you to exactly what you need to do to get your corporate kit. Your corporate kit is your binder with your stock certificate and your operating agreement or your bylaws. Why? Because when you're applying for your certification, they're going to ask you for your stock certificates. And so this is an example of one step. And as you continue through this here, you need to be set up your e-verification. Like step number 70 is e-verification. And so if I'm looking at step number 70 here, it says e-verify, and the link to get set up your e-verification is right here. When you're bidding on contracts at the state, local level, at the federal, if you have 50 employees or more, you have to have e-verification. At the state and local level, most projects are going to ask you for your e-verification number. If you don't have that, they won't allow you to bid on a contract. So we take you through all these little steps, micro steps, that sometimes you just don't know because you don't know. So you follow these steps here, and all the links and resources are here, and the templates are over here. And so if we go through this here, I'm going to give you an example. As you continue to go through this process, we go through strategies, we go through education, registration, you get to promotion. The government does not use brochures, they use capability statement. We put templates in here, right? We put capability statement templates in here. So if you look at this here, the templates are right here. If you click on this here, all the templates are over here. And then as you continue through this process, your website needs to look a certain way. We give you resources, how to build your website, how to change your website. If you have an existing website, we give you samples. And then eventually we get into marketing, how to build relationship. And we use a technique called the carrot technique. And so the template is right here. If you're going to email a contracting officer, what do you say? The template is right here. And so you just click on this here, and it will pull up a sample. So let me give you an example of what that template looks like here. And so this is an example of email marketing samples. And we tell you, okay, keep it short, be personal, be professional. And then the email sample is down here. So if you're seeking a sole source, which what Whitney talked about earlier, right? How do you get a sole source contract? She used the term direct award, which is a type A sole source contract where you do not have to bid on it. And so you use this here. I met you at this event, or I was referred you to by the SBA or by the PTAC or a small business specialist. And then, this is who we are. We specialize in these three things. But this is the most important statement in this email here to a contracting officer. And you guys can borrow, if you're watching this episode, this is the most important statement here. Should you have any simplified acquisition needs, micro purchases, or sole source initiatives, we can respond very quickly to support your projects. So I'm speaking governese, right? I'm speaking the language that a contractor officer speak, because they know what a simplified acquisition is. Some of you do know what that is. Some of you do not know what that is, but you have to speak their language when you're engaging them. And a simplified acquisition project just means that any project under $250,000, and I'm telling this contract officer that if you have a project under $250,000 and you just need to get off your plate, because the contractor officer, they do not want to put out a solicitation for a $240,000 project. That's a lot of paperwork for them to do. If they can award that through a sole source or direct award, they love to do that there, because they don't have to read proposals. Or micro purchase, right? Micro purchase is anything under 10,000. In fact, the rules for micro purchase is being changed right now. They're going to increase micro purchase to 15,000. So anything under 15,000 is treated as a purchase order. They don't have to put it up for bid. They can just pick up the phone, or they can just say, "Hey, I want to buy this from your company." Sole source initiative is anything under $8 million. They can sole source to a small business that have certifications. So these are the techniques, these are the strategies that you're going to learn in the class itself. And so when we say the CCM class, not only are we teaching you techniques, terminologies, but we're giving you principles and strategies and all these different very important resources. Where to go to network, right? Capture management is about relationship building. And so these are the resources where you go to network and build relationship. Then we get into proposal writing and how to find opportunities and how to write proposals and all of this good stuff here. So the CCM program takes you actually through about 966 steps. And this is actually a company that went through the program, and then they actually enroll in the coaching program. And you kind of see, right? This company started with zero. They did not have a business when they got into the CCM program, and they got into it and they started applying this homework specifically for their company. From zero contracts to forming their company, like they have to say, okay, we have to get a kit, and we have to issue shareholders, and who's going to own what percentage of the company. And then if you follow this here, this is really what it's about, right? They won their first and second contract 6 months into enrolling into the CCM program. And then as you can continue, they won more contracts, right? Another $25,000 contract and so forth. So that's really what the program is about, is teaching you how to become a capture manager, but at the same time, helping you to go out there and succeed and win government contracts. The same way Whitney did it for the clients that she supported, the same way these companies are doing it for their own companies there. So with that, Whitney, as a capture manager, what are your closing thoughts? Any closing thoughts for anyone who's considering either being a capture manager for their own company or being a capture manager for some other companies and as a professional?
Yeah, I appreciate the question as well. I guess my closing thoughts around that would be, in my opinion, capture management is the cornerstone to your success in the federal market space. I think whether at the small business level or even the large level, you want to invest in capture and business development because it starts way before a proposal is written. So make sure you either have the processes and systems in place or find the person or people to help you with that. I would also say just know that this is a long game. A lot of times the procurement cycles are very long. And so just be patient. The work that you're doing is not in vain. You will get some rejections, but like Abe said, when that win comes, it's not a matter of if, but when, right? When it comes. So just stay persistent is, I would say, my biggest piece of advice to anyone looking to get into capture management.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that there. You know, it is a it is a cycle, right? A fiscal year. And so procurement, we call it capture for this reason, because it takes a long time. Uh, a bigger size project can take up to 6 months, or up to 12 months, or through 2 or 3 years. These opportunities are planned out years in advance. And so patience is key to being successful in the government market. With that said, Winnie, it's been really fun hanging out with you, sharing a little bit about your journey as a capture manager and your life, and where you're at. And so, just to kind of wrap things up here, we're going to put her contact information in the chat again. But Whitney is available if you are looking for more a capture manager to come and help you, or if you just want to network with her and learn from her experience. She'll be more than happy to meet up with you to learn on what it means to be a capture manager for your own company or as a professional. With that, I just want to let you guys know that you are one contract away, and
You are one grant away from all your dreams and all your successes. Thank you so much, Whitney. It's been such a pleasure having you on and just learning more about, what you do, your company, and your story to get here. I've added her right there, so you can send her an email if you want to connect. And as always, thank y'all for joining us, and make sure to join us next week. We're going to be doing a podcast on building your board of directors. So we're really excited for you to have that. If you're on the for-profit side, nonprofit side, I think it'll be a lot of great advice and just learning about that, building that board of directors.
yeah, and that's going to be an important topic for all of you, because most of the time you're thinking, oh, I am the only person in my nonprofit, or I'm the only person in my for-profit, and I don't have people to help me. Well, you can build your board of directors. And then for nonprofits, we're going to talk about building your board of directors. For for-profit organization, we're going to talk about building your board of advisors. It's very similar. But if you choose the right people to be part of your board, you can grow your organization tremendously. So we're going to share the tactics, the techniques, and who to look for in building your board of advisors and board of directors. So that's going to be a very important topic to cover next week. So stay tuned. Same time at 11:30 Eastern time. We will be talking about your board of directors and how that can grow your organization. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.